We are now live.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. My name is Deb Cuban, Superintendent for Ukiah Unified School District, and thank you so much for joining us tonight if you are tuning in. We have some great information for you tonight and an ability to give us feedback on our strategic plan. I have a few wonderful people here with me tonight, and I will introduce them before we get started. We have Gus Fuentes, who's our sign language interpreter. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. We have Marta Restrepo, our amazing district secretary, and she will be translating for Spanish into Spanish if it's needed. So any of you who are need some Spanish language translation, Marta will be on standby for you, and we'll let Marta say that in a minute. In Spanish. We have Ian Scott, who is running our technology. Doug Schald, our communications officer, who will be fielding the questions and comments that might come in, and our amazing assistant superintendent, Katie Summer. So Marta, if you could just translate for everyone that if they need Spanish translation, to please, that you're here to be able to do some translation if they're going to be typing any comments or feedback to us.
Para las personas que hablan español, yo voy a traducir las preguntas o ideas que puedan escribir, y si tienen alguna pregunta yo les puedo contestar en español.
Gracias. So I'm going to share my screen. My face will disappear for a bit and you'll see my screen. We have just a little bit of information to share with you, and then we will take any suggestions or questions through the email. So I will give you that site in a moment. Okay, so again, welcome to our town hall for our strategic plan / LCAP. The LCAP stands for Local Control Accountability Plan. It's a state template that's required, but our strategic plan is really the basis for that document that we have to submit to the state. So what we'd like to do tonight is, I just introduced to you our team that's going to be here tonight. I would like to talk about an overview of the planning process and share with you some of the different documents that we'll be working off of. I would like to share our Ukiah Unified goals and let you know that tonight how you can provide input is through this website, town hall, or this email address right here, townhallquestions@uusd.net, townhallquestions@uusd.net. So please feel free to type those in anytime, any feedback that you have for us, ideas, or any questions that you might have, and we will address those during this time. We also have some lovely pictures scattered throughout this presentation. This is our mock trial team at Ukiah High School here on the steps, and they had just finished the mock trial competition for our county, which they won, which was great. So we love the work of our students. So we pre-pandemic, we had been engaging in a strategic planning process, and over the course of about 3 months, and in February, we had finished that process, and then we had to move to our shelter-in-place order. So we put things on hold, but we had done a tremendous amount of work looking at the data, our academic achievement of our students, and the social emotional needs, and engaged all of our stakeholders in a process to create this strategic plan focus. And I'm going to share that with you real quick. So we have identified through that process, our focus this year was supposed to be on math, improving math instruction and learning across all grade levels for all students. That will continue next year as our special focus. We are moving this plan 1 year out because we have been very much engaged in everything that's needed to help support students during the pandemic. In addition to that, Goal 1 for Ukiah Unified that was identified is that all students are on the path to college and career readiness at all grade levels. And that goal 2 is to continue to cultivate a positive culture that fosters social emotional well-being. And then our 3rd goal is a focus on equity. We want to make sure that we enhance systems that support each student equitably to meet or exceed grade level proficiencies. And we have started that work this year. We have an equity task force that has been meeting, and they will come up with recommendations for what our next steps are in the area of equity. And let me go back here. Sorry, okay. And so with that strategic plan focus, we had a great group of stakeholders create our 3-year action plan, and that got approved by the board last year. So I'll share that with you just so you can see the format. So in this action plan, which drives our LCAP, we've identified the goal area. We also identified the priority area, which is on that previous document. And we have listed out the actions that we're going to take to support that goal area and how much each of those things is going to cost, or the lump sum of those things. So that's how this document works. And I'll just highlight a few things. We have been working really hard to improve reading in our district, and we hired 11 reading teachers. So we plan to continue that, and any new action is in bold on this document. So you'll see that we wanted to allocate some funding so that each school site can provide some reading incentives. And then another highlighted area would be to improve STEM instruction and programs. And on that last slide, there's a picture of some of our amazing STEM students doing great work. So in this document, and these are all posted with this presentation on our website. So if you want to look more closely at this document, these documents, they are posted on our website. So we also fund our arts and music program through our plan. We fund music teachers, and we support visual and performing arts education. And so that's just another example of what we are doing with arts and music, just some of the positions that we're funding. And we've got a lot around college and career education. And there are a lot of actions under there. After school programs, we have a lot funded for after school programs. So this document just kind of details all of that. And I'm going to scroll pretty quickly through it. But again, you can access this on our website. We have a lot in here on school safety. We have hired a tremendous number of counselors over the years through input from our stakeholders. And I think I will stop there. I talked about the equity task force. So they are in the beginning stages of their work. We also have hired family community liaisons to be able to be great resources for our parents and community for our schools. So just wanted to share that document with you. And then we have been, since February, we have been engaging stakeholders in gathering input into our new 3-year strategic plan. So what we're really looking at is that plan that we created last year. Is it still relevant? Are those still the right actions that we need to take to achieve our goals? And then we're also asking stakeholders, what did we do in the last year during distance learning that was helpful, that you'd like to see us continue to do, that really helped with either academic achievement, helped support our families, or helped support with social emotional well-being? And so we're getting input on that as well. And after we're finished with our stakeholder input, we will draft any new actions that we need to include in our plan. And we will be getting that this month to our school board to look at just as an initial view. We'll also send it back out to our stakeholder groups, and then we'll incorporate any input into the plan again. And it will go to the board in May and then get approved in June and submitted to the state. So that is our process. And I wanted to spend just a minute talking about the budget because it's very relevant. And there again, up in the right corner, you can see some of our amazing STEM students working on a project. And I wanted to talk about the budget because not our total budget, but I wanted to share with the community that due to the COVID pandemic, we're getting additional funding that will help us in many ways. And so I wanted to share some of that with you. The funding that supports the strategic plan is called supplemental and concentration grant funds. And the district receives about a little over $14.5 million in supplemental concentration grant funding that we will receive in 21-22. The funds are generated by the number of students who qualify for free and reduced price meals, the number of English learners, and the number of foster and homeless students. And those are unduplicated. And they must be used to support, these funds must be used to support these groups of students. So, and about 80% of our students fall into one of those categories. And so it really is the majority of our students who benefit from these funds and all of the different actions that we've put in place to better support them. So I wanted to share with you the draft strategic plan budget list. And again, these are all linked. This is more detail than the previous document that I shared with you. And this is based off of, this was as of February 23rd. Now, as with all budgets, things change very rapidly, especially in this environment. But if you're curious about specifics around different positions or initiatives that we're funding, you can go to this document. You'll see here that one of our actions is to provide paraprofessional time when we have an elementary school combination class. So if we have 4th and 5th graders together in the same classroom, we provide 3 hours of paraprofessional time to support the learning of those students. Also for transitional kindergarten and kindergarten, we provide 2 hours a day of paraprofessional time for those classrooms. So it just gives you some more detail. The previous document I showed you was a general, very general, and this gives more detail into the pieces of those bigger buckets that I was sharing earlier. So I will go back and, whoops, sorry. In addition to our supplemental and concentration grant funding, which we get every year, we're getting additional COVID-related funds. And I share this with you because some of these funds require stakeholder input. And so we are rolling in our input process. We're trying to gather input during these input sessions for some of these funds as well. And I'll share with you which one specifically. We are getting a little over, well, $5.7 million of federal funding. It's called the ESSER 2 for COVID preparation and response to address school needs and the needs of at-risk students. From the state, because we reopened to in-person instruction, we're getting a grant. We moved from distance learning to in-person instruction. We're getting grant funds of a little over $2 million. And also, we are eligible and will receive expanded learning opportunity grant funds of $4.6 million. And that is to accelerate learning and address student needs, to extend learning time, and to support social and emotional learning. Now, this group of funds, the in-person instruction grant and the expanded learning opportunity grant funds, they require stakeholder input. And so we are, as part of this process, we are asking for input related to addressing student needs, extending learning time, and supporting social emotional learning. We are also getting what is called ESSER 3 funds from the federal government, which is $12.7 million. And that is to be used to accelerate learning and support student needs and support health and safety. So an example of health and safety is we know that businesses and schools should have great air filtration systems. And so we can use some of this funding if we needed to replace some HVAC systems that were older, outdated. Some of our sites have asked for shade structures so that they can do more outdoor learning. So we're working on that as well. So I just wanted to share with you that we are getting these additional COVID-related funds, and that these funds right here, the Expanded Learning Opportunity Grant funds, they require stakeholder input. So we are rolling that into this process here. So in terms of the process related to these COVID funds, the Ukiah Unified Board is going to be developing a framework for the use of these funds, and they will be approving an expenditure plan for all of those funds. The Extended Learning and Opportunity Grant requires stakeholder input, which I talked about, and a board-approved plan by June 1st. And then I already talked about the Extended Learning and Opportunity Grant stakeholder input. So the good news is the purpose of those dollars really align with our goals in Ukiah Unified already. And so we'll just have some additional funding to enhance those goals to help support our students who need additional support in their learning or their social emotional well-being. So that's the nice part about those funds, is they really do support our already existing goals in our district. So what we'd like to do, and I'm so happy to report, we've got all sorts of students in person on our campuses, both during the school day and then for after school activities. This is a recent picture of our Ukiah High School Wildcat football team out practicing, and they are currently playing games, football games, which is great. We have middle school and high school sports running right now after school. So what we'd like is, if you have any questions about the information that I shared with you, or you'd like to email us any input during this session, we'd love for you to use this email address right here, which is townhallquestions@uusd.net. And then after tonight, if you've read the documents and you have more input for us, please use this other email. And again, this can be accessed on our UUSD website, strategicplan@uusd.net, after this meeting. So Doug, are there anything that's been emailed in so far? Any input or any questions?
There's one input.
Okay.
Would you like me to read it?
Sure.
Okay. My wife and I are new international exchange coordinators for foreign exchange students. Through the Exchange First program, Ukiah High School has had a vast history of hosting students, many who lived in our home for a year. We encourage the Ukiah High School to once again welcome students from other parts of the world.
Yes, and we love our exchange program. We don't know where we will be next year yet because of COVID, but it definitely enriches the lives of our students and staff in our district. So as soon as we are able to welcome exchange students back, we definitely have every intention of doing so. Are there any other questions or feedback, Doug?
Not at this time.
Assistant Superintendent Summer, did you have anything to add? Did I miss anything?
No, I think you covered it all. We're, just really excited to be in this process right now, getting lots of input. And again, if you have any other input, we have the strategic plan at uusd.net that you can also give us input.
Marta, would you like to translate that into Spanish, those two pieces there on this slide?
Sure. Pueden enviar preguntas y opiniones por correo electrónico para esta reunión a la dirección de correo electrónico que aparece en la pantalla. No la voy a deletrear porque es muy larga. También puede, y después de la reunión pueden enviar las preguntas o opiniones a la otra dirección que aparece más abajo. La de más abajo es strategicplan@uusd.net y la de arriba es townhallquestions @uusd.net.
Okay, so any questions? Thank you again so much for your support. I know that this has been a very trying time for our community, and I cannot tell you how exciting it is for me to see our students on our campuses. And every time I see a bus driving around town, I get very excited. We're just so happy to be welcoming our students back to school. We have really missed them, and for those of you parents and grandparents and family members out there who've been watching, thank you so much for everything that you've done to keep kids engaged. I know how hard it has been, and I'm super grateful for everything that our staff has done, and our school board. Our school board has made some really great decisions along the way related to allocation of financial resources to support our students, and I look forward to working with them also in the future related to allocation of funds. Doug, is there anything else that has come in before I end this meeting?
Nothing else has come in.
Okay, I think we will, and again, to the public who might be watching, please feel free to email us at strategicplan@uusd.net after this meeting. And we'd love to hear your suggestions and comments.